ithetha ngebudget now. I-VAT ithi mayinga-increase. If iyavana ne-ANC kule ndawo ethi i-VAT mayinga-increase, masingadimandi ezinye izinto ezingekho. We have our ministers there, public works, iza kuyimonitarisha ama-budget. You know, Sis Cathy, aba bantu abathi i-DA ithathaphi i-support engaka, nke ndeva ngenye imini the youth league ye-MK bethetha ngokuthi i-DA ithathaphi ezi-support. Siyayivotela i-DA.
So Siwela, how are you feeling about the negotiations, and in particular, how the DA has handled the negotiations from its end?
To be honest, I'm not happy about the negotiations because we are talking about the budget. Let's leave the other things. Let's concentrate to the budget. Let's leave the Bella and the NHI. Let's talk about the budget, the other policies. Uzawuzibona ngoba isikhathi siyahamba sisikhethi siye sayimisa u2% ukuthi maku-increase i-VAT. Now, in negotiations, isikhethi, I'm not happy at all the way i-DA is qhuba ngalo.
All right, Siwela. And how long have you been voting for the DA, if you don't mind my asking? We've lost Siwela out in Mount Frere, but he says he's a DA voter, and part of what he was expressing was just that he's not happy with how the budget negotiations have taken place, and that the party should have rather focused on just the budget and not use the budget to bring in all of the other things that they wanted interventions in. Unati, you're in King Williamstown. Good morning.
Hello, Sis Cathy. How are you?
I'm good, Unati. Go for it.
Cathy, I wanna talk about something completely different from the one of the ANC and the DA and the budget. Because when I woke up this morning, in the morning, I woke up with an amount of 20,000 in my account, and I don't know when the money is coming from. So I'm just calling here to get a sober mind, like maybe sort of an advice. Because I thought by now they would have reversed the amount. The person would have seen that the amount got on the wrong account, so then they reversed it. So I'm just thinking, maybe should I be using the amount, because this is my private bank account. So is it a crime to be using that amount, because it's there in my account? And then I don't know, we don't know where it's coming from. But I thought, but now, because it went in on my account, I think by 12, it's 12 in the midnight. I thought by now they would have reversed it. So I'm just calling here to get a sober mind and advice of what should I be doing.
It doesn't have a reference, that 20,000.
No, it doesn't have a reference.
Okay, so before we bring sobriety in, let's dream a little bit. I mean, what do you want to use the 20,000 for? Huh? What do you want to do with it?
No, I'm just gonna chow it. Hello?
On what, Unati?
No, I'll see. Something always comes out when you have money. There's something that comes out that needing the money. So I'm just thinking. Because this thing was happening, I'm just thinking of the lady from the NSWAS. So I'm just thinking maybe, because if I use this money and something like that happened to the lady of NSFAS, that maybe they say it's a crime. So maybe should I just go to the bank and report it?
You see, Unati, the problem is that you don't have a clear plan for the money. I mean, I said, let's dream a little bit. When are your answers? No, I just want to eat it. Awa. You see, I thought you had a clear strategy. But now that you clearly don't have a plan for it, then you must just give it back. Just give it back. Because whatever you spend it on, it's not going to be worth it. Just call your bank, notify them of the transaction, tell them to reverse it. For all you know, maybe you have a great long lost aunt somewhere who remembered you in the middle of the night and said, I have a relative, Unati, who needs this 20,000 rand.
No, okay, I know. I'll just go and comment and because I thought by now they'd be invested.
Yeah, just call them, Unati. Just call them, and clearly you won't be that heartbroken because you don't have. No, he doesn't. My TD Zalma is looking at me like I'm being weird. Unati doesn't have use for this money. He didn't have a plan. If I were him, I would have a list already of what I want to do with the money. Yeah, he just wants to go to the mall and eat it.
You putting
All right, Unati. Okay, do the right thing. Do the right thing.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Unati knew exactly what he needed to do. He just had to share it, so that I think, they say there's the angel on this side and then there's the little devil on the other side. He just needed to get rid of the devil. Time for the latest news.
In our top stories, National Assembly Speaker's Office confirms receiving EFF's request and judgment to be handed down in Omotoso rape trial. Good morning. The Office of National Assembly Speaker Toko Didiza has confirmed receipt of a letter from the EFF requesting the urgent withdrawal of the report on the 2025 fiscal framework and revenue proposals. The report relates to the budget Finance Minister Inoko Dongwana had tabled in Parliament last month. Didiza's office says she will respond to the EFF in due course. Lulama Macha reports.
The report was adopted on Tuesday by the Standing Committee on Finance. The committee adopted the report with recommendations from Action SA, which includes that National Treasury must be given 30 days to come up with alternatives to tax hikes while scrapping the 0.5 percentage point VAT hike and to adjust personal income tax brackets. MPs are expected to vote on whether to adopt it or not in the afternoon.
Judgment in the rape case of televangelist Timothy Omotoso and two co-accused is expected to be delivered today in the High Court in Gqeberha, the Eastern Cape. Omotoso, who was arrested at the David Stearman Airport 8 years ago, has been in custody since. His two co-accused, Lusanda Solani and Zukiswa Setu, were out on bail. They face more than 30 charges that include rape, human trafficking and racketeering. Sisipo Ngumbe reports.
Presiding Judge Ernest Skuman will deliver the verdict. Omotoso has been in custody since his arrest in 2017 and he tried twice to be granted bail. His co-accused were granted bail of 2,000 rand each. The trial comes to a close after it was restarted following the recusal of Judge Makaula. The initial prosecutor in the matter, Ncabantelwa, was also replaced during the trial. During the trial, the defense also managed to have 31 charges dropped against the accused due to insufficient evidence.
The Eastern Cape government has welcomed the deployment of a police specialized sexual offences unit to Matatiele. The unit will oversee the investigation into the alleged rape of a 7-year-old girl at a school in October last year. Premier Oscar Mabuyane says the step is significant as it reinforces government's commitment to fighting gender-based violence and protect vulnerable groups. He has urged the community to cooperate with the unit. Mabuyane spokesperson Kuselwa Ranki.
Premier Mabuyane is also in contact with the family of the victim, in particular the mother, to provide support during this difficult time, and has actioned some of the proposals that formed part of their interaction. On behalf of government, the Premier once again wishes to assure the family, the community of Matatiele and broader Eastern Cape that the matter is being investigated thoroughly. He has reiterated the province's unwavering dedication to creating safer communities for all residents, especially children.
State witness number 47 in the kidnapping and human trafficking trial of Jocelyn Smith is today expected to continue to testify in the High Court sitting in Saldanha Bay in the Western Cape. Leon Hanana has denied allegations that the accused were assaulted. Defence counsel had alleged the accused, Jacqueline Apollos, Davino van Rijn, were tortured in the process of obtaining confessions. Apollos, van Rijn and Kelly Smith, the girl's mother, are on trial. And finally, Hollywood actor Val Kilmer has died at the age of 65. He's known for his roles in some of the biggest movies of the 1980s and 90s, including Top Gun and Batman Forever. Kilmer's daughter says he died of pneumonia yesterday. The BBC's Lizo Mzimba looks back on some of the actor's best-known roles.
At the heart of Top Gun's testosterone-fueled action was the rivalry between Val Kilmer's Tom Iceman Kazansky and Tom Cruise's Pete Maverick Mitchell.
You up for this one, Maverick? Just a walk in the park, Kazansky.
He went on to play a series of high-profile roles, ranging from Jim Morrison in Oliver Stone's Doors biopic to Batman in Batman Forever. But then his career mostly stalled until in 2022 he returned to the role of Iceman in the blockbuster sequel Top Gun Maverick.
Recapping the top story, the Office of National Assembly Speaker Toko Didiza has confirmed receipt of a letter from the EFF requesting the urgent withdrawal of the report on the 2025 fiscal framework and revenue proposals. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends. You need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
You're listening to The Talking Point as we lead conversations that move us. It is 9 after 10 o'clock. Welcome to the second hour of the show. Coming up in this hour, we'll be getting into our Citizens Corner. And for today, we're looking at efforts to fight gender-based violence, particularly using technology. We'll get into that conversation shortly. Before we do, however, different views and takes on the WhatsApp line, we'll take a couple of your WhatsApp voice notes, including some responses to Unati and the mysterious 20,000 that landed in his account, and his question, what should he do?
Sure, I was Cathy Mohlahlana. Yeah, I mean, if I've gotten the money by 12 o'clock, I think by 9 o'clock this morning, it will have been finished. No, I mean, there's a saying, you must just use the money, Osketi. Sure. Yeah, no, for me, it will be gone by now. 9 o'clock already, it will have been gone.
Good morning, Cathy. This is very simple. Cut the government expenditure on salaries. Why do we need so many deputy ministers and so many department officials? If they can cut just like the deputy ministers, they'll save a whole lot of money, and then they won't need to put the VAT up. I mean, this is not rocket science. Eddie from Polokwane.
Cathy, let us not be fooled by the Democratic Alliance and the African National Congress. The DA knows very well the consequences and the repercussions of them being booted out of the GNU. It will mean the EFF and the MK must come to the fore, which is something that they fought very hard to prevent it from happening in the first place. So I can bet you with my last cent, and let's talk again tomorrow. Remember this voice note. The DA is going to vote in support of the budget. Thank you very much. Tapelo Pilusa from Maswanganyi village in Guyana.
Morning, Cathy. Give that guy who just received the 20,000 rands, give him his number. If he doesn't know what to do about it, give him my numbers. I will advise him better.
Morning, this is Clive. I just want to speak about Action SA and this whole budget thing. I mean, yesterday was April Fool's Day, right? Well, the joke is on Action SA because they have been taken for a ride by the ANC. Action SA has sold out. So if this budget, vote comes to pass, we only have Action SA to blame. And they have destroyed the good work that the DA was trying to do.
Good morning, Saskate. It's Rana from Durban. Saskate, this GNU should be dissolved. We should just get a new government, perhaps go back to elections, because the DA is trying to do a soft coup. It's trying to govern behind the scene and doing all these things to change the laws as if we voted for the DA. No one is consulting us as the voters as to do we agree to all of these shenanigans that they're trying to swing around.
Good morning, Cathy. Etienne Captain Cathy. The GNU will rest. The DA won't leave the government of national unity. For them, they're just making pressure. It's like an abusive relationship where no one wants to leave. So the DA will stay there and the GNU will stand. What I see, just watch my word, the GNU will stand. The DA won't leave it to allow other political parties to join. That's why they make like a commitment. We won't allow EFF and MK and others to join. So they do exactly the same thing. For Eman Mashaba, yeah, they done the same thing. So no one must blame him. They will say they will never negotiate with the work with the INC. Thank you. Team Captain.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Well, for Citizens Corner today, we're looking at a solution that has been developed by young people in an effort to try and increase access to justice and fight gender-based violence and femicide in the country. The app Gen G Engage is to be launched by Activate Change Drivers in partnership with the Sonke Gender Justice and Action Aid. It is a tool that they're hoping will empower civil society organizations, young people and communities with resources to accessing justice. Help me welcome onto the show Mamuma Mulundi, who is a policy development and advocacy specialist at Sonke Gender Justice. Namuma, good morning to you.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to your listeners. Thank you for having me.
Also on the line, Ramolodzi Sotwane. gender activist and programs director at Activate Change Drivers. Ramolotsi, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to your listeners.
Firstly, let's talk about the development of this app and it being targeted specifically towards gender-based violence. We have seen I think in the last 5 years or so, quite an interest in terms of how technology can be used to help in the fight against gender-based violence, whether it is the panic button apps that have been developed, right, that call for immediate assistance for somebody who needs to be rescued, or even if it is being able to lay a complaint with the police and needing support in that regard. So when the app Gen G Engage was being developed, what was the thinking behind it, Namuma? What was the question that you were trying to answer for, or the solution that you wanted to bring?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Cathy. First, as Soccer Gender Justice, we get a lot of queries or people phoning in and sending us emails requesting support on their cases. And what we found is there are a lot of cracks in the criminal justice system, and there's no way to keep actual track, or at least most of the community-based organizations don't have a systemized manner of keeping track of their cases, from the point of reporting all the way up until sentencing. So you find that when they write to us requesting assistance, they'll come and tell you, you know what, it has taken so long for my case to be opened. Okay, which is the police station? Where was it opened? How far is the police station from where you're situated? Things like that they don't necessarily have with them. When cases are postponed, they might not have written down the reasons for the postponement, so they'll tell you the case was postponed. Why was it postponed? They can't remember the reason, or the matter is withdrawn altogether, and they are not sure why the matter was withdrawn. So the app is actually coming to enable community workers to be able to keep track of their cases. When they attend court, they're able to say, I've attended this number of times on this and this and this particular date. So they're not just saying, I've attended court over 5 times. They're saying, I've attended this specific number of times, and every time it was postponed, these are the reasons that we were given. This is the specific court where this is happening. It will enable us to actually then, and anybody else who's coming in to support, be able to keep track of how far is this case progressing, where are the cracks in the system, is it happening more at the time when the case is opened with SAPS, is it happening more at the time when the matter is before the courts, and also just to keep track of things like, are people getting the psychosocial support that is needed when they open their cases? Ideally, what should be happening is any survivor or any victim of GBV should, at that moment in time when they report their case, be offered some sort of psychosocial support. And that support should be ongoing up until the trial occurs and even through that process. But we are seeing more often than not, this is not taking place, and we are not able to keep track of all of this. So this will help the community workers be able to see this. Another thing we're seeing is in some cases...
So Namuma, before you continue, in as far as this app is concerned, you're targeting it primarily at community workers.
Yes.
Are these community workers that belong to particular organizations or that are working in the space?
So we're working with those who are working in the space. We are starting off specifically in the Generation G Coalition implementation sites. So these are in Mtwalume and in Nanda, in KwaZulu-Natal, in Ikata and in Butterworth in the Eastern Cape, and in Orange Farm and Tembisa in Joburg. Those will be our startup sites. We are already working with civil society organizations in these spaces, and we are hoping that we'll be able to expand in time.
So that means that this almost is a pilot of sort that you will be running of this app in the areas where you already have a network of community workers.
Yes, we are starting with a base, yes.
Yeah. What is the support that these community workers are often expected to give to victims and survivors of gender-based violence?
A lot of times, it actually starts at the point when a survivor needs to report the case. Sometimes, instead of going directly to the police station, the community feels comfortable, victims feel comfortable to go and work with organizations that will give them support at that stage when it's time to open the case. In certain instances, community workers have been involved when a survivor has tried to open a case and they've been unsuccessful in that process. So they come in and start there. Other times they come in to try and give psychosocial support. Unfortunately, obviously, they're not trained or upskilled for this process. So that's another thing that they come in to give assistance. And other times they come in to give support in the court process and actually be here to hold the survivor's hand as they go every time they have to appear in court up until the case is finalized.
All right, I'm going to ask you to just hang 10. We're going to continue this conversation shortly after this break.
Get unbeatable football odds with SuperSport Bet. From derbies to title deciders, our Super Boosts give you boosted odds you won't find anywhere else. Switch today and get 100% deposit match up to 5,000 Rand. SuperSport Bet is licensed by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. Bookmaker license 101911097. No persons under the age of 18 are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. National Responsible Gambling Program. Toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help 076 675 0710.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
When leaders need to account, we call on them. When society needs to debate, reflect, and advance, we're here to have the conversation. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12 midnight.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
You're listening to The Talking Point, leading conversations that move us. And for Citizens Corner today, we're looking at, just efforts to try and curb gender-based violence and femicide, particularly the use of technology in creating access to justice. So, Namuma, you, of course, are with Sonke Gender Justice. You've been speaking about the thinking behind this app and the solution that you are hoping it will bring to communities. Ramolodzi, you are with Activate Change Drivers. Tell us a bit more about, again, this technology and what role you believe it will play.
All right. Thank you very much for the question, Cathy. For us as Activate Change Drivers, our core focus is on strengthening the capacity of young people to influence positive change in society. And we've been working with the Generation G program in partnership with Sonke Gender Justice and Action Aid to really work with young people that have an interest in gender justice, that are doing work at community level to address the issue of gender-based violence. And for us, this technology presents an opportunity for us to amplify the youth voice and to amplify civil society organizations in terms of how they respond to this challenge. And we believe that it is important for us to have multi-pronged approaches in addressing the issue of gender-based violence, and technology really contributes or enhances the work that we are doing in reaching audiences across the country.
Would you say that young people have an easier time integrating technology into their day-to-day than perhaps older people? And I wonder again how this fits in within communities, because when it comes to community workers, I think the ages vary. You'd have very young people, but then you also have older people that have been volunteers for significant parts of their lives.
Once again, an important question. What we've seen with how young people have been utilizing, especially with the advent of social media, is that young people are not just utilizing these platforms socially. They are using the platforms to raise their voices and raise awareness on issues that affect them. I think the example of Peace Must Fall is one that we can think of, where young people decided that they wanted to take a stand on an issue that affects them, and they use technology to mobilize support across the country. So with the same thinking and using the same logic, we believe that with regard to the issue of gender-based violence, we can empower young people to be able to mobilize their own communities using technology. Hence, this GBV app becomes an important tool for us to utilize in this space.
Let's talk about the challenges, again, that community workers often face when trying to support survivors of gender-based violence.
Cathy, one of the key challenges that we've identified, maybe just for a bit of context, before we initiated this app, we went into communities to try and understand what are some of the challenges that they are facing in terms of responding to the challenge of gender-based violence. And one of the things that came out from that process was that communities felt that they are not empowered enough with information and resources to be able to meaningfully hold office bearers accountable, to hold stakeholders that are working within the justice sector accountable when it comes to issues of gender-based violence. So part of what we thought would be important was to have a platform that can be able to empower and equip civil society organizations, young people, and communities in general with essential resources and tools to combat GBV. And we believe that that is very important for communities and activists to act from a position of knowledge.
Namuma, how does the app work?
So the app will have different channels, right? And what, in terms of what, based on even what Ramalosi has said now, the first part will be the access to justice section, which will be a case monitoring section. So they'll be able to upload the case name, the case number, then, it will have information like how close was the court, not the court, the police station. It will have, basically the access to justice section will have different pockets that you can put all the information for every stage of the case. If the matter was postponed, when was it postponed to, what were the reasons, and all of that can be infilled on an ongoing basis. Then there will be the section on access to information. This is all research that will already be inputted into the app for people to access. For instance, a tool that will actually teach them how to go about case monitoring. There will be legislation, for instance, the Sexual Offences Act, the Domestic Violence Amendment Act, and any other research that may be related to GBV will be added on. It will the way the app will work is the information can be updated on an ongoing basis, and even community workers themselves, based on what they've found out in time, can also add information onto the app so that it helps other people. Then the third function will be the engage, where now people will be able to talk about, for instance, if they are running an activity or an event, they can invite other people, they can discuss some of their work, they can discuss the challenges that they are facing in the work that they are doing. So it will be a platform where they can also just share information on a day-to-day basis in relation to the work that is being carried out. And it will also be a place, a sort of a safe space where people can talk about, okay, what are the challenges, concerns, and fears that we have as we do this work going forward. And it will be a place for CSOs to also mobilize one another. So there's three main functions that, if, for instance, all you want to tap into is the part on access to justice, you can do that. If you want to get the part on information, you can do that. If you want to get the engage for the CSOs, you can also do that, or you can have the benefit of all three arms.
In many ways, to me, it also highlights part of the brokenness with the criminal justice system, because surely this is also information that should be available at the country's police stations, at the country's courts. Why is the record keeping seemingly just so poor?
That's a great question, Cathy. And part of what we are hoping to do with this app is be able to have that data that says, look, in these number of police stations across the country, this is what we are finding. And based on that evidence, now you can hold decision makers accountable.
All right, we'll continue the conversation shortly on the talking point. It's edging towards 10:30. Time for your latest news headlines.
Good morning. In the headlines, scores of people have gathered outside the High Court in Gqeberha, the Eastern Cape, ahead of judgment in the trial of televangelist Timothy Omotoso. He was arrested at the Chief David Stearman Airport 8 years ago and has been in custody since. The Office of National Assembly Speaker Toko Didiza has confirmed receipt of a letter from the EFF requesting the urgent withdrawal of the report on the 2025 fiscal framework and revenue proposals. And 3 former U.S. officials say Washington has been unable to respond meaningfully to last week's huge earthquake in Myanmar because of aid budget cuts. Details on these and other stories at 11.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand is currently trading at 18 rand 53 to the dollar, 23 rand 91 to the pound, and 20 rand 01 to the euro. Markets in Asia were mixed at the closing bell. The JSE mainly weaker during mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe have extended losses. Gold is trading at $3,126. Platinum $978 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $74.03 a barrel.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
When leaders need to account, we call on them. When society needs to debate, reflect, and advance, we're here to have the conversation. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12 midnight.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We continue the conversation on the Talking Point. For Citizens Corner, we're looking at how to support the fight against gender-based violence, particularly with the use of technologies. And today we are looking at the Gen G Engage app, which is an app launched by Activate Change Drivers in partnership with Sonke Gender Justice and Action Aid. And as you heard there, that this app is targeted primarily at community workers who often become the support system for survivors of gender-based violence. But when you look at what it is that they're going to be tracking, you heard then as far as access to justice is concerned, it will be helping those that have cases to be able to track what the status of those cases are, case numbers, what happened in court, where is the matter, and it will form some form of database that will be easily accessible for those that have matters that are with the police or before the courts. But the question is, why is this work that must be done independently? Why is this work that needs to be done independently? And it really shows the breakdown that we have within the criminal justice system. And in fact, as I think about it, I had a robbery at my house about 10 years ago now. And I opened a matter with the police. And the day after the robbery was the last time I heard from the investigating officer. And the fact of the matter is, you just aren't able to track what is happening with the case. Now, if somebody has survived gender-based violence, they're in an even more vulnerable position. They need even more support. But if they're the ones that have to be running up and down to find out, well, where is this matter? Surely that is not the way that it should be. Joining this conversation is Sakile Zungu, who is a director at Action Aid. Sakile, good morning. Good morning, Sakile.
Hi, Cathy. How are you? And also good morning to your listeners.
Yes, thanks for joining the conversation. So if we look at the challenges that community workers are having in tracking cases, what more for those that are directly affected by these matters? How big of a challenge is it for these survivors?
It is an extreme challenge, especially for survivors. In certain instances, I think, as you have mentioned with your example, that you had a break-in, and the last time you spoke to anybody relating to the case was after the day after. This is a normal experience for survivors, and sometimes survivors of very terrible experiences that they've gone through, whether you're talking about either being a victim of rape, corrective rape, or some form of violence, or someone being murdered from your family. And you find that there is no assistance that you're getting from the relevant stakeholders that should be assisting you. You find that a lot of victims and a lot of people within communities do not know how to engage, what to go into a police station. When you go into a police station, what you should leave having on your hand or communicated to you by the authorities. So what you find that most of the time is that you find people don't know where to go, how to get answers, who to talk to when they've reported cases, and they get nothing from those cases. Often what they find is that they get an SMS after a while that says your case has been closed, whether lack of information or lack of evidence relating to your case, and your case has been closed. There hasn't been any communication or contact with the victim from the day that they've reported the case. In some instances, what you find is that the victim is back and forth, going from pillar to a post, trying to get this matter, trying to get a case number for a matter that they've reported. So these are some of the issues that exist and experiences that victims are experiencing after reporting cases, either at police stations, or sometimes you find that a case is enrolled in court and the victim has no knowledge of the case being enrolled in court, or the victim has no knowledge of when is the date for the matter being in court. So all of those issues are issues that we come in contact with, or some of the issues that the partners that we work in at a grassroots level would report in terms of some of the issues and challenges that they're facing on the ground.
Sakile, there are standard operating procedures, right, for how the police do their jobs, how prosecutors also do their jobs. Is the sense that you're getting that this SOP is simply not being followed in the way that it should be, and therefore disempowering victims?
Yeah, sure. I think I would accept that notion, even though I wouldn't want to say across the board that is the experience that people are having on the ground. But to a large degree, one can argue that the SOPs, like many other good initiatives and policies and legislators, as long as they are not necessarily enforced, or that there's an enforcer of these, then what you find is that the experience of communities and community members is often the opposite of what an SOP would have, or a policy would enshrine. So the experience that you find in community often reflects something of a horror movie, or something that you yourself would not want to go through or experience if you had an issue or if you had a case that you wanted to report. And often we, in a sense, are a bit privileged in the sense that we do know what our rights are. We do know what type of service I should receive if I'm reporting a matter. However, with many community members, with many ordinary South Africans, they don't necessarily have the knowledge in terms of how basically they should be serviced, what basically they should get in response of the issues that they are facing, and often they are just shock of not giving the best service that another human being should receive, and you find that they lose confidence in the justice system that it is able to resolve their issues or that they are able to get justice from the justice system.
Ramolotsi, I would imagine that the community workers themselves would have to undergo some level of training in order to also efficiently use the app and populate it with the right kind of data, because unfortunately, if you're dealing with data, what you're able to read of it is only as good as the quality of input that you have. Hello, Ramolotsi.
Hi, Cathy. Sorry, I got disconnected. Can I ask that you ask the question again?
That's fine. So I said that I would think that there's a lot of training that is obviously going to have to be conducted with the community workers in terms of how to use the app, because the quality of data that will sit on the platform is only going to be as good as the quality of input of data that has been inputted into the platform.
Yeah, that's correct, Cathy. I think one of the things that we've done over the years is to conduct access to justice workshops across the 6 intervention sites that we are working in, and the Sonke Gender Justice has been really helpful in really empowering our communities with knowledge with regards to access to justice. The intention is for us to go back to the communities that we are working with, the civil society organizations that are part of the Genji civil society network, to empower them with information and knowledge in order for this app to be as meaningful and useful for our people as possible. It is correct that we do need to be quite intentional in terms of how we engage with audiences that are going to be using the app, and for specifically the young people and civil society organizations that will be supporting us in ensuring that we disseminate information in communities and empower our communities with knowledge.
Ultimately, how are you hoping that being able to have this platform is going to assist in the fight against gender-based violence?
Maybe I'll take the first step at it. For us, it's important that we foster accountability among duty bearers. So in order for us to be able to do that, communities have to be informed about what their rights are, what their responsibilities are. So it is at that level that we are hoping that we can empower communities in order for them to ensure that they hold duty bearers accountable. So if a person goes to a police station and they are lodging a case and they are not receiving the kind of support that is required at that level, they should be empowered with knowledge to know what is it that they should do next to really ensure and demand accountability from various stakeholders in the justice system.
Namuma, I'll ask you the same question.
To add on to what Ramolotsi has said, we want to be able to track across the country what are the different experiences that are happening, which are the police stations that are getting it right? Where is it that the courts are actually doing their part? And where is it that this is falling short? And be able to just see, the thing that we need to bear in mind is South Africa's laws are really, really good, especially the laws pertaining to gender-based violence. They are great. The challenge that we are having is in implementation. So what we want to be able to track across the country is where exactly are the pitfalls? Where do we need to tighten the bolts? Whom do we need to get to say, okay, but we've been able to see 600 cases in this particular area are not being taken through the SAPS investigation process as it should happen. And I'm just giving an estimate, for instance. It could be 30 cases, for instance. But just to have those kind of records to make our accountability model more efficient, so that we're not just protesting, but we're saying, look, the reason why we are protesting is this is the number that we have. This particular police station, this is what is happening. At this particular court, this is what is happening. So it's more so how do we tighten accountability by collecting our own data, so that we're also not just relying on data directly from, whether it's SAPS or from a government place saying this is how we've dealt with the cases. We are also able to say, but hang on, this is what we have from a community perspective. How do we share our data so that we can tighten this and address GBV?
Is this information going to in any way feed back to the police stations, feed back to the police or even prosecutors that are running with some of these cases? Namu?
Yes, that is what we hope for. If you look at the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence, Pillar 6 is on the information, research and information system management. And the hope is that CSOs and government will be able to share their data on GBV so that it can help with reinforcing models for addressing GBV. So there is that aspect where we want to be able to come back to the courts and say, but this is what we have found in this particular court. What now? What next? Or who do we need to hold responsible for where the shortfall has happened? Or how can we come in further and provide support? So there certainly is an intention for information sharing.
Sakile, let me give you a chance to come in before I take some of the voice notes on this issue.
Sorry, Cathy, if you could repeat the question for me.
So I was asking you, is there anything else you want to contribute before I bring in the views of our listeners?
No, I think my colleagues have summed up the value of the act quite significantly. So I think we can go to the voice notes here.
We need to look at the pattern of behavior. It's not just that they end up killing you. First, they control you. So some of us, we see jealousy as cute. It's not. A man's insecurity can lead him to take your life. When your partner isolates you from people, keeps wanting to see your phone, keeps using offensive language towards you, keeps telling you should be home by this time, you can't go there, you can't wear this. Those behaviors, those controlling tendencies, they tend to escalate. And if your spouse is already hitting you, trust me, you either leave with nothing on your back like Tina Turner did, or you will leave in a closed casket.
Good morning, Cathy, and the listeners as well. Cathy, we mustn't develop any app that has to deal with gender-based violence. We must look first in our society. We must tackle the issues with our culture, where in our culture most women are disadvantaged. We all know that the challenges that the women face of our cultures. Our women can't do this. Our women can be abused. Our women are physically abused because of their strength. So we must deal with our culture from our opinion. Remember what happened to a recently podcast which was trending, where Reason to defend a certain woman because she was called a downgrade by a young man who was not taught the value of how to say opinion, the value of how to respect and value women in society. So the first thing that we must do is to deal with our culture and how to raise a boy child before they become a man. By Protect Land.
Hi, Cathy. Thank you so much for such an important topic. I called into your show during 16 Days of Activism last year, and you had a guest that spoke about the importance of collaboration across the different stakeholders and communities. But I have learned that since then that there is issues in community organizations where sometimes there's too much politicization of issues instead of focusing on addressing the real problems in our communities. There's also lack of information. I mean, I spoke to some of the organizations that I'm a part of about things like pillars, the 6 pillars of government, and nobody reacted. Nobody even knew what that was about. I tried to share job opportunities, and it seemed like there's just people really focusing on their political agendas in these organizations. Thank you, Cathy.
All right, so different points there being raised by our listeners. I want us to begin first with this issue around patterns of behavior. And as great a tool as this might be in as far as tracking what has happened, it is, of course, largely coming in after the fact. I mean, is there any way that you can include in there, Namuma, something that also speaks to prevention? Because there's so much information, as the listener was raising, that if people were perhaps able to access a bit more, then they might be able to pick up the signs of abuse in their own lives or relationships.
Thanks for that, Cathy. You're right. The app definitely comes in more as dealing with the issue after it has occurred. But we are hoping that the access to information platform would be used as a place to share more information on GBV, root causes of GBV, how we can deal with it as a society from the grassroots level. The thing is, we also need to bear in mind that some of these are conversations that we need to have within our community spaces. For instance, if we look at the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence, Pillar 2 speaks to prevention and rebuilding social cohesion. And that angle of prevention and rebuilding social cohesion goes into the community dialogue that we can have. Again, this is something that the app can also help with youth advertising for community dialogues that they intend to have, where they will share and discuss issues related to GBV from the root, looking at what has led us to this point as a society. This is a small aspect, and definitely a lot more still needs to be done, and this is not the final solution. But we hope as the app takes off, we'll be able to find ways and be able to see how much more can we improve in order to address this from a preventative place as opposed to after the fact.
Sakile, if we're to look at the aspect of collaboration and the concern raised there about the difficulties that exist within community organizations, that these organizations often are used as a platform to fight local politics, etc., etc. Do you see the app assisting in that regard? Hello, Sakile. All right, it looks like we've lost Sakile on the line there. Ramolutsi, maybe you want to take that one.
Yeah, I think it is an important question that is being raised around collaboration. One of the things that we've identified has been the fact that there's a lot of silo working, especially within the gender justice space, with very limited collaboration amongst organizations and state institutions that are working to address this issue. There is, however, there has been examples of models of collaboration, such as what we've been doing with the Generation Z program, where you have 3 different organizations activate, which focuses on engaging young people. Sonke, we have a focus more on policy issues, and Action 8, who focuses on civil society strengthening. These organizations coming together to say, how do we work collaboratively in addressing the issue of gender-based violence. It is an effort for us to really enhance collaboration within the space, and I believe that there are other examples of organizations working together across the country to really respond to some of the social challenges that are facing us. There is definitely room for improvement in terms of how we manage and collaborate, but that is not to say nothing has been done in that regard.
All right, let me bring in Figo from the Eastern Cape. Figo, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Cathy, and how are you?
Good, Figo. What do you want to add?
I am a community worker myself, and experiences
Figo, I'm going to ask you to try and walk around a bit. The connection to you isn't great, but let's give it another try.
I'm in a terrible area.
Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah. Now, what I want to say is that I bring in 2 perspectives of this, Firstly, from, as a community worker, helping people in these situations. And, there's just no compliance. And then, secondly, on a personal level, my granddaughter, on the 1st of April in 2022, was raped by her own biological father. And to date, up till today, there is nothing that has been done about it. When I try to follow up and I try to push, I'm told by SAPS, you have no right to any of this information, you are not the parent. And then secondly, on the 22nd of January of this year, I had a burglary at my business premises in Iduchua and reported to SAPS. They came out, statements, fingerprints, the whole hooty-tooty, nothing. And then I found evidence of who could have taken my stuff and burglarized my place and my neighbor's place. And approached them. They said they sent someone out till today. Nothing. I did my own investigations, recovered my stuff, told them I've got my stuff, I know who, I know where. Nothing. Then I get an SMS that it's closed. So it's not about the public not understanding who to speak to and what to do next. It's just pure laziness and incompetence on SAPS and the law system. And they just make excuses. We don't have this and we don't have that. It's just excuses all the way.
So Figo, do you then believe that the introduction of a platform like this won't necessarily assist in the challenges that you as community workers face, that those challenges are going to remain?
I highly doubt it. It will assist. There are platforms, similar platforms in place. I mean, if you take the national, the SAPS that report a non-intent for one, that thing doesn't work. It's a failure. These things, there are platforms in the communities that we are allowed to use and supposed to use. Nothing.
And in as far as the case involving your granddaughter is concerned, where is that today? I mean, what happened? Was the man ever arrested? What happened?
Nothing. He wasn't questioned. Nothing. I went to state prosecutor, the senior state prosecutor at the Zoom court, which is the local court. Nothing. She promised us. All they did was arrange one meeting with a social worker. That was the end of it. So today, I'm still investigating. Here's a perpetrator, here's a victim, at least giving the opportunity to answer. Let's hear his side of the story. Nothing.
Wow, Figo, I can't imagine the impact that has had on your granddaughter and the family holistically.
Yes, they've damaged my granddaughter. She's got no faith and no trust in anybody. A rebellion, started doing poorly at school, behaving badly at home. But at least we've got her under control now. We've tried to rebuild her. But I mean, the child is devastated, and nothing gets done. Nothing.
Sure, Figo, thanks for calling in and for sharing that story. And that's a reflection of an experience, right, of somebody who is a community worker. Namuma, let me give you a chance to respond to Figo and the concern he's raised.
Thank you, Cathy. And my heart goes out to him and his experience, and especially his granddaughter. It's most unfortunate, but his situation is not an isolated event, right? Mm-hmm. And what we are finding, and what we found in the times that we have engaged with community over the past few years with this project, is that there's a lot of community workers who are faced with these kind of cases, but like my colleague said, they are working in silos. So what we're trying to see is how can we get these people coming together so that we can be able to say, but look, these are the number of cases from this particular area where this challenge is happening. So that it's not one person fighting a war against the system on their own, that they are able to work more collaboratively. So this is what we are hoping that the app will be able to do. Ideally, in this situation, we should be able to find out and report the SAPS official who was who took in the case. We need to be able to report the station commander and report them higher up in the system to understand why is this case stalling. They should be held accountable like that.
All right. Well, let me thank you all for your contribution to this conversation this morning. We certainly wish you the best with this latest app, and hopefully it will do exactly what you have set it out to, because the reality is we do need as many interventions and solutions as possible when it comes to fighting and supporting victims of gender-based violence, but fighting the scourge more holistically in our country. It's 11 o'clock.
Thank you, Cathy. Top stories at 11. Verdict to be made today on a Mototso rape case and EFF request received by the Office of National Assembly Speaker. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good morning. Scores of people have gathered outside the High Court in Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape ahead of judgment in the trial of televangelist Timothy Omotoso. He was arrested at the Chief David Stearman Airport 8 years ago and has been in custody since. His co-accused Lusanda Sulani and Zukiswa Sito are out on bail. They all face 32 charges, including rape, human trafficking and racketeering. Members of AZAPO and the ANC Women's League have come out in their numbers to support the witnesses. Members of Omotoso's Jesus Dominion International Church have also turned up to support him. AZAPO member Chris Swebu says they want justice for the victims.
We are hopeful that the man would be found guilty. We are praying for the sake of the victims. So we are here to support the victims. We need to stand against gender-based violence. So we are here to make that particular statement.
Still in the Eastern Cape, civic organizations and political parties in the Buffalo City Metro are calling for the protection of the DNA samples of the possible suspects in the rape case of a 7-year-old girl in Matatiele. They handed a memorandum to the Metro Mayor, Princess Faku, at the East London City Hall yesterday. This follows numerous marches across the country in solidarity with the rape victims, including the girl. University of Fort Hare Gender Transformation Officer Sinovu Yompola says they demand that rape suspects be denied bail and rapists denied parole.
We also demand that the court takes these cases seriously. We demand that cases do not take 5 months for them to be investigated. And we also demand that citizens of this city shouldn't be able to come out in the streets for cases to be taken seriously.
Meanwhile, in Limpopo, scores of people have gathered outside the Mankweng Magistrates Court ahead of the first appearance of a 58-year-old teacher who allegedly repeatedly raped a 13-year-old female learner since November last year. The learner was raped at a primary school in Makotopong village outside Polokwane. The suspect was arrested on Monday. Members of the community and some political groupings are carrying placards demanding that the suspect be denied bail.
We are very, very shocked. We are very, very, very shocked because teachers must take learners like their children.
Yesterday I went to this family. Then when I get there, that's when her mother told me that this girl, she's suffering from epilepsy. That's when I see that the teacher took the advantage of the situation of the child and her family.
The Office of the National Assembly Speaker, Toko Didiza, has confirmed receipt of a letter from the EFF requesting the urgent withdrawal of the report on the 2025 fiscal framework and revenue proposals. The report relates to the budget Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana had tabled in Parliament last month. Didiza's office says she will respond to the EFF in due course. Yulama Magya reports.
The report was adopted on Tuesday by the Standing Committee on Finance. The committee adopted the report with recommendations from Action SA, which includes that National Treasury must be given 30 days to come up with alternatives to tax hikes while scrapping the 0.5 percentage point VAT hike and to adjust personal income tax brackets. MPs are expected to vote on whether to adopt it or not in the afternoon.
3 former U.S. officials say Washington has been unable to respond meaningfully to last week's huge earthquake in Myanmar because of aid budget cuts. The officials were senior members of U.S. aid, which the Trump administration has dismantled. The BBC's Tom Bateman has the details.
In previous natural disasters, Washington has dispatched emergency responders consisting of up to 200 highly trained rescuers with sniffer dogs and specialist equipment, often being the biggest and most capable foreign assistance team on the ground in an earthquake. But 3 former senior USAID officials told the BBC the White House was left unable to mobilize any emergency response from the US to Myanmar. The US State Department rejected the claim that the aid cuts had affected rescue efforts.
Recapping the top story, scores of people have gathered outside the High Court in Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape ahead of judgment in the trial of televangelist Timothy Omotoso. I'm Mondela for SAFM News Headlines at 11:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Hi, my name is Kutlwana Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Is John Steenhuisen and Cyril Ramaphosa meeting?
I am of the understanding that they have had a conversation, yes. There is a back and forth that's currently underway. We have not concluded yet. We were supposed to conclude last night between ourselves with the DA and the ANC. That conclusion hasn't happened yet. But you would also know, Ashraf, that the Finance Committee has been in a meeting since 10 o'clock this morning. And in that meeting, the Democratic Alliance has moved for an amendment and a tabling of an alternative fiscal framework, which opposes that.
Karabo Kauhau, the DA national spokesperson.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Hi, this is Cathy. Nati should be very careful. Should just take back that money. I'll advise him in that way because I also had the same situation. That money was deposited into my account, but I put it back because you know why? You will never have peace. You will never have rest. The bank will harass him day and night, asking him why did he use the money that he knows is not his. So my advice will be he rather put it back to have peace, because every time he sees a police van car running on the road, he will want to hide himself, you know. He will want to hide himself because he'll be thinking that the police are here to fetch him for that money. So it's better he just send it back, the money. That's the advice I would give. Thank you.
Morning, Sisiketi, when you talk about this gender-based violence, I understand the statistics, the difference. We must not also leave out some men out there who cannot come up in the open and say what they are going through. I've got a brother-in-law. It's hell for him. It's hell. It's hell for him. You can't say he has got a wife. It's hell. It's not a relationship. It's hell. It's hell. I'm telling you. So, Sisiketi, some men cannot talk, but what they are going through, it's really bad. It's really bad. Norman from Brixton.
Good morning, Sisiketi. Kabelo here on the road. Sisiketi, can I have the number for that guy? Can I have the number for that guy with the miracle money? You are trying to advise him, you're trying to tell him indirectly that you can't teach him everything. I never laughed like this people.
Good morning, Cathy. Lisa from East London. Cathy, let me tell you in the honest truth. Your example about your robbery cases like that, I want to tell you now, they are closed by detectives, but they are scared to inform the complainants that they have no leads on the cases, so they close the case temporarily up until new leads. I don't know what's difficult to do that. Many cases are closed by investigating officers.
Hi, Cathy. The way I see this DA and ANC thing going on, I feel DA is saying if you want to increase VAT, so stop the MHI and all the other things that the ANC is proposing, because they're increasing VAT so that they get money to finance those things. So if we're not ready for those things, let's make sure that we generate more money, and then we can take up more responsibilities. Tandeka.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
Well, thanks for all of those WhatsApp voice notes that you've been sending throughout the show. Welcome to the third and final hour of the Talking Point. In this hour, we're focusing on the franchising industry. And, it is a significant industry. But I must say, looking at these numbers, I didn't realize just how much of a chunk to GDP franchising contributes. So the sector, right, it exists around 14 different business sectors. Franchising exists in 14 different sectors, and you have 727 franchise systems and 68,463 franchisees. They contribute 15% to the country's GDP, employing in the region of 500,000 people. That is an incredible statistic to look at. And part of the argument that you'll hear in this next hour is really a call for government to be more intentional around recognizing the effort of franchising and its contribution to the economy, and how else, government can partner with entrepreneurs in as far as transferring skills and creating jobs is concerned. In studio with me is Ayabulela Njingolo, who's the new chairman of the Franchising Association of South Africa. I understand he led the OBC group for various decades and has got experience in supermarket retail in both rural and urban areas of South Africa. Mr. Njingolo, good morning to you.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And then we're also joined by Fred Mohlahlana, who's the CEO at the Franchising Association of South Africa. Mr. Mohlahlana, good morning.
Morning. Thank you, Cathy, and the listeners of SAFM.
So, Ayabulela, the example that I used when we started the show off is I know, and I don't know if it's maybe just, I don't think it's people in my generation alone, but you have a lot of millennials now who are frustrated with whatever work environments they're in. They've had enough. Maybe they've been able to build up some money via pensions, and people go and withdraw their pensions, and they go and they buy a franchise. And they see it as an opportunity to make an income, as an investment of sort. The unfortunate thing, however, is that we hear so many stories where people are just unable to succeed and end up losing out on the investment and losing out on the franchise opportunity. What are you seeing? What are the trends in that regard? What is it that attracts people to franchising?
Sure. I can't say that I'm surprised by the question. It is quite a common issue that we deal with within the sector. But I can talk from the OBC perspective. So first of all, I'm the accountant and business developer for the OBC group, and I'm here as a representative for the franchising sector as well, with my CEO Fred on my left. So from my experiences up to date and what we've had to deal with in terms of people coming into retirement and having to withdraw their pensions and their investments, was that they are looking for a way to keep themselves busy while still being able to earn an income and sustain their families. But the unfortunate reality is that a lot of people come into the sector without knowledge of what they are trying to get to and what kind of goal they want to achieve. I mean, all they're seeing is the figures, the branding, the name, the association, but no one really understands the kind of effort that goes into building a business from scratch. And that's essentially what franchising is. Whether you're acquiring a new business or you're acquiring an existing business, you still need to take the steps of establishing the necessary processes and procedures to make you understand how franchising works. Number one, how retail works, what are the main processes and procedures you need to follow, and also building on your business and financial acumen as an individual who's potentially coming from a professional space. Franchising means you're the boss. You're working 24/7. You're on the clock, wire. You open that store, you close that store. And if you're going to take it for granted and assume that it's just another fly-by-night plug and play, you are setting yourself up for failure, unfortunately. But out of the failures, there's more successes within the franchising sector. I mean, we've got bankers, we've got lawyers, we've got retired individuals who are in politics, who are thriving, who are pushing, and you don't hear too much about that. All you hear are the pitfalls. And the unfortunate part is that we cannot stop the media from just identifying one or two issues that we have out of 10 success stories, But I believe, look, before you venture into any investment, any business, you need to do your research. You need to connect to the right individuals. You need to speak to us as FASA and say, look, guys, this is what I'm looking for. This is my passion. This is the industry I'm coming from. This is where I would like to focus or channel my efforts and energies as well as my resources, and execute it in a way that I can no longer depend on being employed, but rather be self-employed, and in the process create enough opportunities for people to get employment through that individual.
Fred, would you say that franchising is growing? And I wonder again, who gets to benefit from franchising, right? Because a lot of the times when you have to buy into a particular franchise, it's expensive. It's lots of money. Most of the times, the ones that are cheap, you're not going to do that well. It's going to be a while before you see a return on investment. So let's speak maybe about some of those issues.
Maybe just before I answer your question, I just want to add on what Aya said. Getting into franchising, now you become an entrepreneur. You transition from being an employee where you were earning a pension fund to being an entrepreneur. then you need to understand the responsibilities that come with being a business owner. So one of the issues that you'll find that other individuals fail is because they go into the same mode of working for somebody, not actually owning the business. Coming to your question, I think those who succeed or who benefits are those that know how the system works. You'll see some businesses now, they rely on same franchisees to operate more stores because now they are used to running their business. And that on its own, I think is growing, because one of the issues that has come forth is that as much as you have new sites that are coming up, are taken up by the same individuals who know the system, how it works. And that is good, because you know that the business falls into the hands of somebody who will create jobs in that area, who will keep those jobs. Unlike bringing somebody new who doesn't understand the system, 3 months down the line, we are happy, we are opening a site. 3 months down the line, the shop closes because the owner feels that I cannot do this. You know, being an employee is better, because you know you clock at 8 o'clock, by 4:30, you're done tools, you close the door, you are gone. Owning a business, at times you wake up at 3 a.m. You have to start working, and you come back 3 a.m. You sleep 2 hours. I remember one of our breakfast. One of the experts, I've got to mention it because I think he's an influence, Peter Moyang. He said he realized that for 3 months he was sleeping 2 hours a day, because now he had to work hard. So I think those are the guys that will actually benefit.
What do you find are often the barriers to entry in franchising? Because there is a big appetite, you know. Lots of people feel that they can own a franchise of this, that, or the other. And don't laugh, Fred.
I'm laughing because I travel a lot. I meet individuals every day. That's my job. I'm laughing because barrier to entry is not money, because everybody thinks it's funding. It's not. There's funding all over. All banks are our members. We have independent funders. We have SIFTA. The barrier to entry is knowledge. Knowledge and awareness of what is required to run a business. That is why, as the Franchise Association, now we have what we call Franchise Manager Occupational Training Module, because we identify that as much as we want to create jobs, we need to create jobs with people who know what they are getting to, how to run a business. I can tell you, Cathy, now that you spoke of graduates who are running around, who have certificates, can't find jobs. There are jobs all over. I work with young people, I work with organizations that are looking for young people to come forward and take up those roles. But you find that the majority of young people, they don't care. But what's so amazing is that they've got iPhones, they've got phones in their hands that they don't use as tools. Instead, they watch those funny videos all day and night.
So is there, and I'll give you a chance to come in now, Ayabulela, is there an expectation or a capacity issue that you find is often lacking with in terms of what it takes to make franchising successful? I mean, you give the example of young people who might have the degrees, but when it comes down to the wire, are perhaps not able to bring what is needed into a business. And I imagine even that might be at even just entry level. Where's the disconnect? Where's the gap? What is it that market is looking for that potential employees don't have?
We have a disconnect in that our education system leads us to believe that we have to find work. The majority of entrepreneurs now are grouped in businesses that they should actually be owning their businesses. And that on its own creates fear in going out to start a business. When you want to start a business when you are 40, you are late already. Because you need to start afresh. Remember, for you to operate a successful business, you have to understand that business over years. These big brands that you see, they've been built over 40 years. They were not built in 5 years. So for you to start getting into being your own boss. It's a transition. And that is why you find that some of the franchises that fail, for me, is painful, because somebody cash up their pension fund, they get into business, but they don't understand the hard work that they've got to put in. So the skills, there's a skills scale. That is why we have partnered with Service SETA to say, let us empower entrepreneurs properly, so that when they get to franchise their businesses, they understand what it takes to run a business.
Ayabulela?
I agree with Fred. As a representative of the youth, essentially, I'm still in my 20s. I look older than that, but I've had the opportunity to be exposed and absorb enough information and knowledge to say, listen, there's not enough being done to get to the greater public of South Africa to say, listen, guys, franchising is another outlet or opportunity to stimulate economic growth. And we're not doing enough to get to the schools. We're not doing enough to get to the youth. And the unfortunate reality is that Fred is saying you need to secure a formal kind of education to confirm that you will be successful. Meaning you need to be a doctor, you need to be a CA, you need to be something of relevance to essentially be comfortable and taken care of. Whereas franchising offers almost double, twice that service offering. It can literally look after you, look after your family, look after your community, and still be able to grow and expand. Whereas in your career, once you reach the top, what happens? It's time for retirement. Whereas franchising, once you get to a level where you can now start expanding your business, you are essentially looking at diversifying the service offering that you can essentially give to the end user in South Africa. But I think the key point and the key areas that we're missing is that we're not starting this stimulation from a young age. A lot of people are leaving their jobs at 40, 50. They no longer have that energy. They no longer have that willingness or that drive or that passion to go into it. I mean, I'm sitting here now, I'm hungry. You know, I'm constantly trying to absorb more information. I'm trying to get it out there. I'm trying to bring it in the light of, you know, the youth, my age group, and being like, hey, guys, listen, here's an opportunity. Why do you want to go sit behind an office the whole day when we can collaborate as the youth and find a way to now expand? I mean, it only takes an individual who's willing to put in the effort daily. I mean, I sleep, 4-5 hours max, and I'm up, I'm ready. I can take on the day, and I can still juggle a whole lot of things, you understand? And in my 20s, I think I've still got a solid 60 years I can build a brand. And we're not teaching the youth that. We're not giving them the opportunity to see that you can be something other than just a CA or a doctor. You can be an entrepreneur. We don't emphasize enough value in that to say, guys, come on. We can put in the effort. The same effort you put in having those sleepless nights trying to finish your exams is the same effort you can put into running and understanding your business. But we're not taught that. I mean, unfortunately, the black child is in a position where I'm bufunda. Get a good job. You will be fine. I'm a victim of that as well. I mean, I come from the same environment. I study. You'll find a good job. You'll be fine. But when I got into franchising, I was like, whoa, okay, let me take a step back. I didn't need to go get my qualifications to understand this. I just needed to be aware and be willing to learn and listen.
I want us to be real about some of the challenges that exist. So if I'm to stay with Ayabulela's example, I am a 25-year-old female, just finished school. I have a diploma, I don't have a degree, and I want to get into franchising. Now, there are certain things that are going to be difficult for me to access in terms of what I'm able to get opportunity into. I want us to be honest about what those things are, because the reality is that not every unemployed 25-year-old with a diploma, or even with I don't even want to think about without a diploma, with a diploma, can just come to the Franchising Association and say, hey guys, I heard that interview with Ayabulela and Fred. Yeah, I'm ready. Please sign me up. Sign me up. Where are the forms? Where do I have to fill in?
Sure.
The reality is really a lot more difficult than that, Fred. And I want you to be honest with us here.
The reality is that one, you need to get into a franchising space. One, you can work for a franchise business for you to understand the business. Two, being a 25-year-old, you don't have the necessary experience and expertise to run a business. Three, you haven't saved a cent to invest in a business. You need to have a strategic approach of saying, how do I get to own my own business like any other business? It's not like you can borrow 100 rand, you go and buy 10 tomatoes and you sit at the corner and you do that. But there are those who started their business that way, where they started baking 3 magwinya at home, they started baking 10 and other stuff. Over the years, they started to invite families, they enjoyed their cakes, and they open up a business. You need to have a focused approach into what is it that you want to achieve in life. Not everyone is an entrepreneur, by the way. So that is why we employ plus minus 500,000 people for those systems to operate. Entrepreneurs is somebody that has unique skills and vision of what is it that they want to achieve. You can take 100,000 kids into one room and say, here's a phone, what can you do with a phone? You'll find that there's that one child who can actually tell you that, in fact, with this phone, you can harvest water. And you say, what? He says, if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this was. So we have to look for special talent that creates entrepreneurship. Not everyone is an entrepreneur. There are those that can work in the business and excel as managers or as waitresses. As you know, in these businesses, you've got awards for best waitress or waiter or whatever. So we need to understand our strength. And not everybody has those strengths of being an entrepreneur. Okay.
We're going to continue with the conversation shortly. I wonder, have you ever thought about franchising? Are they a particular brand? Zama says no. No? Zama? Why? No, switch on your mic. Zama is my technical director this morning.
I'm not into business. My dad has tried to rope me into the family business.
What does I'm not into business mean?
Because I'm not business-minded. I've tried. I'm not business-minded. This is what I love. This is what I do. This is my passion. This is why you end up with people in the wrong places. You end up people working and doing it for the money and not with passion. Then you end up failing.
She's not into business, she says. It's 11:30. Time for the latest news headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. We'll start with the breaking news. Televangelist Timothy Omotoso and his co-accused Lusanda Sulani and Zuki Swasito have been found not guilty on all charges against them. Omotoso was arrested at the Chief David Sterman Airport 8 years ago and has been acquitted on all 32 charges against him, including rape, human trafficking and racketeering. He has been in custody since his arrest, while sitting judge Emma Skuman conceded that she should not conclude that the evidence given made by the complaints was untrue. The state failed to prove Umotoso's guilt beyond reasonable doubt. And advocacy group Section 27 has lamented a lack of political will and provinces' continued underspending in infrastructure grants as reasons for failure to eradicate pit toilets in schools in the country. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Ashraf Gada on SAFM.
What does the data suggest to support you describing it as a pandemic? And you've just done that.
Every day in South Africa, at least 15 women are murdered, and then 117 women report rape cases to the police. So that on itself just gives you a small picture of why we say that it is a pandemic. That's just a summary, the fact that we're rape capital of the world.
That's Bulelwa Adonis, the Women for Change spokesperson.
You're listening to the National Pulse. Missed it? Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
You're listening to The Talking Point. My word, if ever there was a day where I wish our listeners could just be able to plug into the conversation happening offline in studio, today's that day. Because Zalma has sparked this debate, right? You heard what she said before we went to news. She said, I'm not a business person. Don't invite me. I know what my passion is, and I like my sleep. I don't want to be awake beyond what I have said to be the time I've said to be awake. And Fred, I want you to say on air what you were saying about the traits of entrepreneurs and just the idea of comfort. Because I think that's also part of where the difficulty in the transition for people comes from, is that you are used to this 9 to 5. You know, month end, you have a salary, you have your benefits if you have benefits, but there's that stability and expectation that I do 1 to 3, and this is what I get in return for it at the end of the month. With entrepreneurship, it's different.
Cathy, thank you again. Entrepreneurship is not for individuals who want comfort. It's for those who take risks. If you don't want to take risks, it's the same as being an investor. So if somebody comes and say, if you have 100 rand and you invest 100 rand into this thing, this will be a return. And you are saying, no, I want to keep my 8 rand, I want to invest 2 rand. Entrepreneurs is for those that actually risk everything that they have. At times they put their family lives at risk, where they believe in the cause of what they are trying to do. And entrepreneurs who are highly successful now have failed so many times in other opportunities that they tried. So if you are not that person who is willing to risk going hungry for 3 days or so, you are not cut out for business. Because business is for somebody who says, I'd rather not eat and work on what I want to achieve. I'll give you a simple example. This has been passed down on us, that fear, where our parents who were entrepreneurs, who took us to school with those kind of small businesses that they were doing at the corner. They say, I don't want you to work hard as much as I'm working hard. I want you to go to school to find a job where you'll be comfortable. So that comfort is passed down by our forefathers. And that is why if you go to townships now, those shopping centers are closed. Those shops that were a marvel for us to go and enjoy our sweets and everything, they are closed. Because what the parents did, they empowered their children through education, but to do things that they were not doing. And entrepreneurship, our vision now as FASA, is that those who get into franchising must bring their children along to teach them the skills of running a business, grow through the business. We are on a crusade of saying franchising is a legacy business. And now we have those children that are born within those businesses that run their businesses now.
Sure. I've got a message here from Meta who says, Cathy, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. However, those who are aspiring to be must have the skills set and the technical know-how to run a business. I provide HR management and labor relations services to entrepreneurs, and it's not easy at all, even with experience. What training does the franchising organization provide to new businesses? And I think that's an important question.
We are twofold focused. One, we have SETA, that is a skills development agency by its mandate. Then we have our partner called Inani Incubation Accelerator. So when you want to get into business, you get in touch with us and tell us what is it that you want to do. Then we'll be able to refer you either to Inani or to SETA, because remember, education and training is not about everything and anything. So you may come with HR knowledge, as she says. Now she may want to know about legal and finance. She may want to know about quality assurance processes and so forth. Then training has to be tailored in that manner.
I'm going to bring in some of our listeners, and of course, quickly dial in on 086 000 2032 if you have a question for our guests. 086 000 2032. Colin, you're in Cape Town.
Good morning. Good morning.
Colin?
Good morning, Cathy. Good morning to your guest. I hear your guest saying, take a risk, take a risk. I know a few people that took a risk. They ended up in big, big trouble, even committed suicide. They got their pensions together, went in partnership, opened up business, and within a year or so, lost everything, so and so. What I'm trying to say is now, to try and go into a franchise, especially if you take your pension money, if you want to open up a fish shop or a Nando's or whatever it is, a franchise, you've got to do your homework, and you've got to go on a course and learn something about business. Now you take the chance and you lose. Some people are successful. Another thing too, if you open up, say for argument's sake, a chicken place or a fish shop or something like that, in the area, you got to go and do your homework. Find out how is the area. Is it a poorish area, a well-established area? How many people are in the area? And do a survey and ask the people, do you need so-and-so fishery or a bakery, or do you need this in the area? If the people say no, this and that, do your homework. And if you've got a demand for it, then you can start saying to yourself, this is a good area. Make sure you are not next door to another fish shop or another takeaway and so. You got to do a lot of homework. It's not easy for people just to take the pension. I'm going to open up a fish shop. I'm going to open up a franchise, Nando's or something like that, with no experience. So you don't take a risk. The best place to hold your money if you don't know what to do with it is in your back pocket or the bank. Don't try and venture to get richer and richer. Be satisfied with what you've got, especially if you are in your 50s, 60s, and take your pension money and waste it, your family suffer. I even know a guy who committed suicide 3 months. You know what I mean? So you've got to be business-wise. Okay. Do your homework. Thanks very much. I'll listen on the radio.
Colin, I think that's very, very solid advice, right? Run your due diligence. Have a solid business plan. Ruben, you're out in Mbombela. Good morning.
Hi, Cathy, and hi to your guests. I'm very much interested in this topic that you'll be talking about, the franchising, the entrepreneurship language, and the preparedness, and the whole magazine. Cathy, it is a little bit of a challenge currently with most of South Africans accessing funding. I heard Freddie talk about funding is all over. You've got your CFDAS, you've got the ADFs and the other guys, and everything. I understand that, Freddie. But how to structure yourself, how to prepare yourself, how to present a marketable document or a plan that can be funded is still a problem. I can understand also, Cathy, the issue of employability, job creation in numbers. I understand. If you listen to Ayabulela says, when I started, I used to sleep 2 hours and the likes. So I could grow an understanding of the language of the business I'm taking a chance into. So Ayabulela, that's beautiful because you are investing in your future project or in your future there by saying, I'm going to deny myself A, B, and C. Freddie, you spoke about a person who's 45, 40, 39, or 50 maybe, resigning from their jobs and going into franchising. Freddie, you are saying it is too late. Freddie, I understand you. But remember, Freddie, the language out there is 30 years into democracy, we don't see any progress. And it used to, some might not see progress. There are men and women out there who did not have these kind of opportunities in the 30 years before the 30 years of today, who could have gone into these things had they had an opportunity. So it's not my age that is going to do the work. It's my mind. It has to be my mindset that says, I'm going to do A and B and C. My age does not do negotiations. The people, Freddie, who took a chance on you, they listened to how you presented yourself, how you market it, whatever it is that you wanted to do. So I want to dispel this gospel of age and age and age. It's not the age that does the work, it's the person. The person's mindset has to change.
Okay. Thank you for that, Ruben. Before you come in, I hope you're making notes of what our listeners are saying. Let's play some of the voice notes that have also been sent through so that we get your responses in one go.
Good morning, SAFM. This is Kyla from Soshanguve. I'm listening to the conversation about comfort and entrepreneurship, and I'm defending the comfort side. There's nothing wrong with just wanting a job and wanting your 8 hours of sleep. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, being an entrepreneur in this, according to what the gentleman is saying, is mentally straining and physically straining, which is actually bad for you, how in the way he's describing it. And there are ways of being an entrepreneur without going through the physical and mental strain.
Yeah, if the entrepreneur is not financed, then it's only a matter of information. Like what business on earth can I actually establish without funding? And please don't tell me about this government funding that we've seen people even aging applying for.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
All right, well, you've had your say. Fred, do you want to go first?
Yes, let me respond to Ruben. I think on the issue of age. Our experience is that you find somebody that is in finance for 40 years or for 20 years. Now they want to get into food. They don't understand food market. They don't understand how to run a food store. Already you have lost 20 years doing finance. So how do you jump from finance to food? So I'll give you a simple example. I met one lady who was working for one of the big retail stores. And instead of considering going to franchising now, she wanted to go and be a lawyer. She's approaching a retirement age, and she says, you know, I've had enough of this retail, I've had enough of this and all that stuff. Now I want to go back to school and be a lawyer. I said, the number of experience that you have gained in this retail business, actually you have a platform to go into franchising. Approach these guys because they are offering those kind of opportunities. They need guys like you who have experience already. You are at an advantage stage. So as much as you have had enough, but your enoughness is quite an investment that you should actually use. Then on the issue of comfort, we are saying if you want to go into franchising, there's nothing wrong with somebody who wants to be comfortable and all that stuff. I still want to see somebody who's an entrepreneur who's living in a comfort zone, who wakes up at 9 o'clock and sleep at 3 o'clock or 8 o'clock and all that stuff. I can tell you, and you know, Cathy, this is normal. Successful entrepreneurs, they don't sleep at all because you have to start working. Once your business grows, it demands more of your time. Franchising affords you an opportunity to have business partners who will grow your business where you wouldn't ordinarily reach. I'll give you a simple example. We have American brands here that are operated by grandchildren of the founders of those businesses. Some they don't even know there's a place called Orange Farm, but they've got outlets that is working for them. So franchising helps you to start a business that you work hard for, but that brand should actually work for you.
Okay. Bulela?
I'll address Colin's matter in terms of why so many franchisees or entrepreneurs tend to fail. And it's, look, FASA or franchising is an entry point to entrepreneurship. We're not saying it's the landscape or the determining factor that you'll be successful. As Colin mentioned, he might have had a friend or an associate who might have potentially committed suicide. Condolences on that matter. But the reality of it, coming from a franchisor's perspective, we provide support. The point where he said, how do you now do your research and acquire the knowledge you need of a specific market that you're going to enter? I mean, from the OBC group, the moment you become a franchisee, we start to put you through training immediately, get you to understand those systems. And on top of that, before we put you in a site or a market, we do what we call a feasibility study. Now, that gives you a breakdown of exactly what is the market share in that entire region and how much of it can you potentially capture as a specific brand coming from the franchising sector. Those are the kind of, I wouldn't say guarantees, but points in which we could say this is where franchising becomes successful or has a much higher success rate, is that we do the research with you, not necessarily for you.
So you don't have to figure it all out on your own. You don't have to figure it out on your own. Gentlemen, we've come to the end of our time. Maybe just quick contact details for people who want to get in touch with the association.
I usually say my phone is not Poppy because I want to reach out to as many people as I can. My mobile 083 237 9932, because my role is to help those entrepreneurs out there or those who want to know more about franchising to contact us.
Please repeat that number.
083 237 9932. Our email address, inquiries@fasa.co.za. Our website, www, or wawawa, as some they understand it that way, .fasa.co.za.
Let me thank you both for your time. Fred Makgato, the guy that gave out his number, CEO of the Franchising Association of South Africa, and Ayabulela Njingolo is the new chairman of the Franchising Association of the very same organization. All right, that's where we leave it on the talking point for today. Show back with you again tomorrow between 9 and midday.
#SAFM Talking Point.
The book reading. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. SAFM presents another episode of the book The Thing with Zola by Zibu Sitole, read by Lerato Mvelase.
Okay, I'll start again. Hi, Mama. How are you? Mbali started afresh. I'm a lot better now that you're back together with Oguhle. Oh, are you on your way to go see her now? Mbali grabbed to take the phone off its cradle, but then seemed to think better of it. He looked defeated. No, Ma. Where did you hear that? From Priscilla. And I'm glad she won't be on my case about it anymore. Oh, I'm done with the constant phone calls about how badly you are treating her daughter. It was getting embarrassing, man. And you know how much your father loves Oguhle. She continued. He's thrilled too. You should call him. Mbali sighed heavily and avoided Zola's eyes, even though he could feel her glaring at him. Can we talk about this later, Ma? Mbali pleaded. I have things to do later, so no. It was lucky that you were at Oguhle's house when she fell, hey? Otherwise, you know her mother would have found a way to blame you. Aye, Priscilla is a nut job. Ongama continued. Zola didn't bother to hide the fact that she was now listening intently, as if watching a tennis match. She looked from the phone while Mbali's mother was speaking to Mbali for his return volley. I really wish you and your friends would stay out of it, Mbali said. His mother had instantly sapped him of his carefree energy. Right now, he looked like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. Stay out of it! Ongama's irritation was clear, even through the car speakers. I am your mother. Huh. Your actions will always be my business. Now what you need to do is pull up your socks, my boy, and start planning to marry that girl. I'm sick and tired of discussing this with Priscilla. It's getting embarrassing, man, and your father agrees. Mbali's response was to rub his eyes. He looked like a 5-year-old needing a nap. Oh, okay, Mama. We'll talk again soon, he said as he drove into the mall's parking lot. Okay, my baby boy, I love you. Ongama's voice softened and she cut the call. When Mbali glanced at her, Zola glared back. Should I ask again? Zola said, gripping the door handle as if ready to leap from the car at the slightest hint of a lie. What are you doing here? Why am I in your car? Why did you send me the flowers when you're not only have a girlfriend, but that girlfriend is my new boss? Zola asked, her voice rising. Mbali pulled into an open parking bay, turned off the car and sat back, closing his eyes while he composed himself. The truth is that ever since I saw you at that coffee shop for the interview, even though it was just once and just for a few seconds, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. Mbali's eyes pleaded with Zola to hear him out, and for once she sensed a vulnerability in him, different to that of the little boy she had glimpsed when he was speaking to his mother. But vulnerable or not, he was still a liar, and he had lied to her face. Nobody played fast and loose with Zola like that. She crunched her nose with disgust and clicked her tongue, stretching out the sound as long as she possibly could. You disgust me. She climbed out of his car and walked away into the mall. Chapter 19. Advice from an unlikely source. Zola walked through the mall grateful that Mbali at least had the grace not to chase after her. The nerve of him, she thought, marching angrily past clothing shops she would normally have stopped to look at. It had been bad enough seeing Ogutle's baby post, but having their relationship confirmed by Mbali's own mother and then having him try to woo her just seconds later, it made her feel dirty. Zola sat down on a bench and realized that she didn't even have her wallet. Now she was stranded. She scrolled through her phone trying to think of someone who could help her out. She landed on her cousin Zozo's details and cringed at the thought. But she had no choice. She pressed dial and an annoying caller tune blasted into her ear. Hey, Kazi! Zozo screamed into the phone. Hey, Zozo. Listen, where are you? Zola tried to sound friendly rather than desperate. I'm with Thabo. You know Sundays are for lovers, mus. Zozo said, laughing. I'm really sorry to interrupt, but I need your help. Zola sighed. She had never imagined needing Zozo's help. But here she was. Anything, Kazi. What's up? Zozo was all ears and actually sounded excited. I'm stranded at the mall in Spruitview, and I don't have my wallet. Can you come fetch me? Let me talk to Thabo quickly. Zozo didn't bother with the hold button, and Zola heard her baby voice giggling and cooing before she got back on the line. Okay, wait by the gate, nah? We'll be there in a few minutes. See ya! Relieved, Zola found her way to the exit and walked slowly across the open car park to the gate, the sun blazing down and searing the back of her neck. On the street, chattering women in church uniforms walked past. Little kids sucked on ice packets unbothered by the heat, and men in cars zoomed past, some hooting, some shouting suggestively at her from their open windows. She was miserable, and it was all Mbali's fault. Finally, a rickety taxi pulled up with Zozo hanging out of the window, shouting her name. Zola, hurry up! Zola climbed into the taxi and perched on the edge of a seat she was sure would tip over at the slightest provocation, greeting Thabo and his friend in the front. Women are a problem, seriously, Thabo said to no one in particular. How did you get to the mall without your wallet? How did you think you were going to get home? He glared at Zola through the rearview mirror. Thabo, don't talk to my cousin like that. Zozo sprang to Zola's defense. She's been living in Germany, Pela, and things work differently there. She probably got confused. How? Offensive, but she meant well. Zola studying in Germany was a point of pride for everyone in her family, even Zozo. And now a random taxi driver she had never ever seen before knew about it. Yeah, but still, Thabo mumbled. She needs to know she's back here now. Mzansi, it's not like she's new to the township. Next time, Sissy, you'll walk home. It took all of Zola's self-control to keep her mouth shut and be grateful for the free ride. If you don't leave her alone, Thabo, I swear we'll get out of this rickety old taxi right now, Zozo shouted, standing up and then hastily sitting down again as they lurched over a pothole. Tabo's friend turned around to look at Zola.
What does my taxi have to do with her now?
He asked, his voice rough and hoarse as gravel.
Easy, easy,
Tabo said, tapping his friend on the shoulder. Zola sat quietly biting the inside of her cheek. They weren't on the route to her house. In fact, they'd driven straight past to the road to her side of the township and were heading further and further away.
Where are we going?
Zola whispered to Zozo.
Car wash,
Zozo said, as if that had been the plan all along. Then she smiled.
So, I heard you have a new boyfriend, an older guy who drives some fancy sports car.
She raised her hand in a high five. Zola pulled Zozo's hand down.
Who did you hear that from?
We all heard, Tabo chimed in. You might as well have been on TV. Mali Poto can't stop about how disrespectful you've become since you came home.
Oh, this is that Zola.
Tabo's friend laughed gratingly. It sounded painful, like a dry cough.
The nasty girl who does all kinds of things in cars.
Zola felt her heart rise. Even though this wasn't true, the neighbors were talking, just like her mother had predicted. Another reason to curse the day she had ever met Mbali.
But if you have a sugar daddy, why are we the ones who have to come pick you up from the mall,
Tabo's friend asked. Zola was annoyed, but she was in their car, and she was now even further away from home than she'd been before. She'd have to be careful with these guys.
That was another episode of the book The Thing with Zola, written by Zibu Sitole, read by Lerato Mvelase. The book is available online at www.penmacmillan.co.za and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursdays on The Talking Point. It is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Lerato Mvelase. Technical production, Wiseman Manmele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuruma.
$12 on Wednesday, the 2nd of April, 2025. A very warm welcome to Updated Noon here on SAFM. Leading the conversation, I'm Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up in the next hour.
I'm of the view, in light of all the circumstances of the case, that the state has not proved its case beyond reasonable doubt.
Why, please?
The accused are found not guilty and are discharged on all the charges.
Pastor Timothy Omotosho found not guilty on all charges by the Gqeberha High Court.
The report that has come out of this Standing Committee of Finance now would not stand in any court of law. Like I can say so confidently, because there was a complete lack of appreciation for the legislation that guides the adoption of the budget, that guides the adoption or amendment of the budget.
And the National Assembly is expected to debate and possibly pass the budget this afternoon. And we always like to hear from you. Please share your views with us on 41391. That's our SMS line number, charged at R1.50 per SMS. You can also write to us via X, our handle at SABC News_radio, or send us a WhatsApp voice note on 082-692-3909. Well, these are more stories coming up on this Wednesday edition of Updated Noon. First, though, the latest news with Mohlahlana. Thank you, Sakina. Top stories. Omotoso and co-accused acquitted on all charges, and Israel announces expansion of military operation in Gaza. For SAFM News, I am Mohlahlana, and a very good day. We'll start with the breaking news. Televangelist Timothy Omotoso and his co-accused Lusanda Sulani and Zuki Swasito have been found not guilty on all charges against them. Omotoso was arrested at the Chief David Stirman Airport 8 years ago and has been acquitted on all 32 charges against him, including rape, human trafficking and racketeering. He has been in custody since his arrest, while sitting judge Emma Skuman conceded that she could not conclude that the evidence given made by the complaints was untrue. The state failed to prove Omotoso's guilt beyond reasonable doubt. Lerato Fekisi reports.
Inside court, just after the judgment was passed, we saw the members of the JDI break out in exhalation and celebration, saying, "Congratulations, Papa, well done, Papa." We actually saw Timothy Motoso kneel down in prayer, together with the co-accused, both of them breaking down in prayer, saying, "Thank God that after 8 years, they've been acquitted of all charges." And that the judge was saying, and our court was saying, that the cross-examination by the state was really disastrous.
Some of the Eastern Cape civic organizations and political parties in the Buffalo City Metro are calling for the protection of the DNA samples of the possible suspects in the rape case of a 7-year-old girl in Matatiele. They handed a memorandum to the Metro Mayor, Princess Faku, at the East London City Hall yesterday. This followed numerous marches across the country in solidarity with rape victims, including the girl. University of Water Gender Transformation Officer Sinovuyo Mpola says they demand that rape suspects be denied bail and rapists denied parole.
We also demand that the court takes these cases seriously. We demand that cases do not take 5 months for them to be investigated. And we also demand that citizens of the city shouldn't be able to come out in the streets for the cases to be taken seriously.
Kosatu in Limpopo is currently staging a picket outside the Mankweng Magistrates Court, where a 58-year-old teacher is set to appear on rape charges. He was arrested for allegedly assaulting a 13-year-old